Howdy, folks. Here with the second lesson on choice and argument. Specifically, today we're going to take a look at conclusions, kind of reviewing rhetorical situation and conclusions, and then examining what choices an author is making to make a meaningful and emphatic conclusion. And check this out. I got like this sweet halo going on. All right. So to talk about our choice in endings, it'll be similar to the introductions. There's a lot of good things that an author can do. Obviously, an author doesn't have to do all of them, but just as a brief list of like, hey, here's 8 great suggestions for you. Let's take a look at them. Number 1, to explain the significance or implication. You just spent 4, 5, 6 paragraphs or even pages talking about something. Explicitly tell me why this is important. So what? Why does any of this matter, right? In your own words. That is a great way to kind of force you to recap and summarize and explain why your argument matters. Secondly, you could place your argument in a broader context, right? I'm not saying pull in new information, like don't just write another body paragraph with evidence and ideas, but really start to make connections to other things. Okay, like, hey, we talked about this thing here. Here's how it will play out in the wider world, right? I've made my case that my thesis is true. Here's what it means for the things around my thesis. Great. Another great way is to make a call to action. Like, hey, I've explained all these things. Here's what everyone needs to do about this problem or this issue. This could also manifest itself in terms of proposing a solution. Maybe you don't specifically say, hey, go out and get off your phone and go plant a tree or go take a walk outside. But instead you say, like, here's what we or teachers or the education system or what students need to do to fix a problem or to realize your thesis. Always a great thing to do is try to connect it to your introduction. And the great thing is like you could do this, you could explain significance, you could create a call to action and connect to your introduction all in 1 or 2 sentences if you're writing really, really carefully. And this kind of happens through the revision process. You may start your introduction here, and then your conclusion ends up like somewhere over here. It might take a little bit of revising and touching up both your intro and your conclusion after rereading your paper to get them to really work together. Like, what could you say in your intro that you're going to come back and maybe echo in your conclusion? If you're a little bit more creative, you might try to paint a compelling image. And by that, I might say, like, tell an anecdote or a story or write descriptively and creatively about here's what the solution or here's what your thesis really would look like if it was taken to heart or if it was ignored, right? Now, I'm not saying like paint a post-apocalyptic world, but like give me a vision of a tangible future, tangible outcome of your idea. And so to take a look at these 7 ideas, let's take a return to that Judy Brady piece, I Want a Wife. And I have a correction to make. So I said that was published in 1990. Actually, it was republished in 1990, but it was originally published in 1971, which makes all the more sense, right? When we're talking about sexism, like we've come a long ways. Good work, America. Good work, society. We've come a long ways. Probably still have a lot more to go. But the context of 1970s is still a little different from the 1990s. So I'll read these last 2 paragraphs and we'll talk about what concluding techniques this author's using. So if by chance I find another person more suitable as a wife than the wife I already have, I want the liberty to replace my present wife with another one. Naturally, I will expect a fresh new life. My wife will take the children and be absolutely responsible for them so that I am left free. So here, the author is, let's say, placing the argument in a broader context, right? This isn't just about housework and chores anymore. This is about like whole life situations with these expectations that are kind of placed, and I think still today, about child rearing and a mother's responsibility, right? I don't think we're equal parts, male, man and wife, husband, wife, man, woman, that whatever I'm saying. Or we don't have equality there yet. Cool, move on. Next one. When I'm through with school and have a job, I want my wife to quit working and remain at home so my wife can more fully and completely take care of a wife's duties. Again, this is kind of explaining the significance or implication as she's built these things that she wants her wife to do. Like, here's the end goal is like, you're going to do what I want you to do. And that's kind of what she's railing against. So against what society wants her to do, against what her husband wants her to do, um, without like a frank conversation about this, right? And so both of these paragraphs that we just read, they're not like truly the conclusion yet, but they're building up to her conclusion. And I'd say both of these are implied, right? She does not specifically say like, hey, here's how these ideas connect to the broader society, or here's how this idea is important and significant as a whole. She lets the author or the reader kind of make those connections themselves, which is okay. And her true conclusion is only one line long. My God, who wouldn't want a wife? And that's a really, really powerful conclusion. And if you were to write a one sentence conclusion on like an English paper, think of like what your English teacher would say to you. But I really like this because it works. And I'm going to tell you why it works. So number one, she has written her argument so well that she doesn't need to address the recapping of the sexist ideas that she brought up in her essay, that she doesn't need to pull up a call to action by both men and women to like, hey, let's talk to each other a little bit more. Let's communicate about expectations, right? With this one sentence and the coming at the heels of a really, really good essay, it's implied, right? It's so obvious that it doesn't need saying that this is a sexist society that she's living in 1971. And it also allows the reader to make her own or his or own reaction and reflection on this question. So imagine if your partner had written this really sarcastic, really satirical essay. Is that how you would want your partner to feel? Who wouldn't want a wife? And again, that's your own call to action. Like if my wife felt like this 100% of the time, we would definitely need to be talking and changing some things, right? Because I wouldn't want my partner to feel that way. And Brady, without saying it, lets the audience make that connection. So again, just as a quick review of what our goals were for today, number one, we're examining specific choices that an author's making to add emphasis, and we're analyzing conclusions. Like, how does an author create an effective conclusion? So always go back to the idea of, okay, how is something written and why is it written that way? Why is this one sentence conclusion effective? And then what I really like about this particular unit and these couple of lessons is it starts to broaden your horizons on what you could do beyond that 5-paragraph essay structure, right? We've taught you as an education system, here's how you write a 5-paragraph essay. Here's what your intro should be like. Here's what your body paragraph should be like. Here's what your conclusion should be like. They should all be like 5 to 10 sentences each, you know? But here you start to get to see how authors are breaking that traditional mold. And don't get me wrong, that mold is good. That mold covers your basics. But as you get better as a writer, you can start exploring these things. And maybe you could even pull off a one-sentence conclusion with a lot of good editing and making sure that the rest of your essay is good. So it's good things to think about for your own writing, be it creative or literary analysis or argument or ACT essays or research papers. Think about these conclusion styles. All right. Good luck, folks. See you next time.